Welcome to this life-changing session, How to Ignite Your Inner Fire by Dr. Dyer. In this powerful talk, you'll discover how to unlock your true potential, harness inner strength, and fuel the passion that drives success, happiness, and fulfillment. This isn't just about motivation, it's about transformation. To embrace the power within is to awaken to the truth that everything you need to transform your life already exists inside of you. It is not something to be found in material possessions, external validation, or the constant pursuit of recognition from others. Instead, it is an acknowledgement of the inner energy, wisdom, and strength that you were born with. Most people spend their lives searching outside themselves for answers, for approval, and for the feeling of completeness. But in doing so, they often overlook the very source of power that could guide them to fulfillment. The moment you turn inward and recognize that the wellspring of your potential has always been a part of you, you begin to shift your perception of what is possible. You stop seeing yourself as a passive participant in life and begin to see yourself as a creator of experiences. This realization changes everything. The inner power we are speaking of is not a physical force, but rather an energy that flows through thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and intentions. It is the quiet but unshakable voice that whispers to you in moments of doubt, reminding you that you are capable of far more than you believe. Yet, this power often lies dormant because the noise of the world drowns it out. From a young age, you are conditioned to seek approval, to follow rules laid out by others, and to measure yourself by external standards. Over time, this conditioning can bury your natural connection to your inner strength, leading to feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and the mistaken belief that fulfillment lies somewhere outside yourself. To embrace the power within is to peel back those layers of conditioning and uncover the brilliance that has always been there. One of the most profound steps in this process is awareness. Without awareness, you cannot access your inner strength because you remain trapped in unconscious patterns. Becoming aware means observing your own thoughts, noticing the stories you tell yourself, and paying attention to the beliefs that drive your actions. So often, people believe that life happens to them, but the reality is that life responds to the energy they project. When you constantly think in terms of limitation, telling yourself you are not good enough, smart enough, or deserving enough, you project an energy that reinforces those beliefs. But when you begin to replace those patterns with thoughts of capability, worthiness, and potential, you awaken the inner power that has always been present. This shift is subtle, but its effects are profound. Consider for a moment the difference between someone who believes in their own inner strength and someone who doubts themselves. Both may face the same external challenge, but the outcomes will differ dramatically. The person who embraces their inner power approaches the challenge with resilience, creativity, and faith in their ability to overcome it. They may stumble, but they see setbacks as lessons rather than failures. On the other hand, the person who doubts themselves interprets the same challenge as confirmation of their limitations. They give up more easily, avoid risks, and often settle for less than they are capable of achieving. The difference is not the external situation, but the internal energy with which it is approached. This truth highlights the importance of shifting from victimhood to empowerment. When you embrace the power within, you no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstances. Instead, you understand that your inner state determines your outer reality. This does not mean that difficulties will vanish or that life will be free of obstacles. Rather, it means that you will approach those obstacles with a sense of inner certainty, knowing that you have the strength to navigate them. Think about the countless individuals throughout history who rose above unimaginable odds to achieve greatness. Their external circumstances were not ideal, yet they tapped into an inner source of strength that carried them forward. You have access to that same power. Another aspect of embracing your inner power is learning to trust intuition. Intuition is often described as a gut feeling or an inner knowing that defies logic, but it is one of the most reliable ways in which your inner self communicates with you. Too often, people ignore these subtle nudges because they seem irrational or because they fear making mistakes. Yet, when you dismiss your intuition, you silence the very guide that is designed to lead you toward growth and alignment with your true purpose. Trusting your inner power means giving weight to those feelings, learning to listen to them, and acting upon them even when the path is uncertain. Over time, this trust strengthens, and you begin to experience synchronicities, moments when opportunities, people, and events align in ways that feel almost magical. These are not coincidences, They are confirmations that you are attuned to your inner power. Embracing the power within also requires letting go of limiting beliefs that keep you bound. These beliefs are often inherited from family, culture, or past experiences, and they create invisible walls around what you think is possible. For example, if you were told as a child that you were not smart, you may carry that belief into adulthood, unconsciously sabotaging opportunities that require intellectual confidence. If you grew up in an environment of scarcity, you may internalize the belief that abundance is reserved for others but not for you. The act of embracing your inner power is also the act of questioning these beliefs, challenging them, and replacing them with empowering alternatives. When you do this consistently, you create a new internal landscape, one that reflects the truth of your limitless potential rather than the illusions of limitation. This process often begins with self-acceptance. You cannot embrace the power within if you are at war with yourself. Many people spend years criticizing themselves, comparing themselves to others, or dwelling on their perceived flaws. This self-criticism creates resistance and blocks access to inner strength. To truly connect with your inner power, you must learn to accept yourself as you are in this moment. Acceptance does not mean complacency. It does not mean that you stop striving to grow or improve. Rather, it means that you recognize your inherent worth, regardless of your past mistakes or perceived shortcomings. From this place of self-acceptance, you can access the deeper energy that fuels transformation. It is also important to understand that embracing the power within is not about control in the traditional sense. Many people equate power with control over others, dominance, or manipulation, but the inner power we are discussing has nothing to do with external control. It is about alignment, not domination. When you are aligned with your inner strength, you no longer need to force outcomes or manipulate situations. Instead, you radiate an energy that naturally attracts what is in harmony with your purpose. This kind of power is quiet yet unshackable, gentle yet unstoppable. It cannot be taken away because it does not depend on external factors. It exists within you at all times. The journey to embracing this inner power also involves patience and practice. It is not something you awaken to once and never have to revisit. Life will continue to present challenges that test your faith in yourself, moments when old patterns of doubt resurface, and times when external circumstances tempt you to give away your power. Each of these moments is an invitation to recommit to the truth of who you are. With each challenge you overcome by turning inward, you strengthen your connection to your inner self. Gradually, this becomes a way of life. You no longer look outside for permission, approval, or strength because you know that everything you need has always been within you. To discover your true purpose is to embark on a journey that goes beyond the surface level pursuits of success, wealth, or recognition, and instead dives into the very core of why you are here. Purpose is not something randomly assigned. It is woven into your existence, waiting for you to awaken to it. Many people live their entire lives without ever truly connecting to their deeper purpose, moving from one obligation to another, guided more by societal expectations than by inner calling. They chase careers, accumulate possessions, and build identities based on what others deem important, yet still feel a quiet emptiness, a sense that something essential is missing. That emptiness is the absence of purpose, a reminder from the soul that you are meant for more than simply existing day to day. Purpose is not always about achieving something grand on a global scale. It is about alignment. When you discover your true purpose, your actions, thoughts, and values come into harmony with your inner truth. You stop fighting against yourself, and life begins to feel more natural, more inspired. Instead of dragging yourself through obligations, you feel pulled forward by an invisible force that energizes you. This does not mean that challenges disappear, but rather that challenges are infused with meaning. When you know your purpose, obstacles become part of the path instead of distractions from it, and even difficulties carry a sense of direction. The first step toward discovering your true purpose is self-inquiry. Too often, people look outside themselves for purpose, hoping that a mentor, a book, or a system will tell them what they are meant to do. While guidance can be helpful, no one can hand you your purpose because it is not external. It is discovered by listening inward, by asking yourself questions like, what makes me feel alive? What activities draw me in so fully that I lose track of time? What values do I hold so deeply that compromising them would feel like betraying myself? These questions are not answered in one sitting. They require reflection, honesty, and a willingness to look beyond superficial desires. Sometimes you already know the answers but have been too afraid to admit them. fearing they would lead you down a path different from what others expect of you. Fear is one of the biggest barriers to discovering purpose. Many people sense what they are called to do, but hesitate because it does not align with societal norms, family expectations, or the traditional definition of success. They tell themselves stories like, "I can't make a living doing that," or "It's too late for me to change direction," or "What if I fail?" These doubts are powerful enough to keep someone from ever pursuing their true purpose, leaving them stuck in roles that drain their energy rather than ignite it. To break free from this, you must recognize that purpose is not about pleasing others or fitting into a mold. It is about aligning with the truth of your being, even if it takes courage to step into it. Another important part of discovering your purpose is noticing where your natural talents intersect with your passions. Each person is born with unique abilities, gifts that come more easily to them than to others. These gifts are not accidents. They are indicators pointing toward the path of purpose. When you combine these talents with the activities and causes that stir passion in your heart, you begin to see the outlines of your deeper calling. For example, someone with a natural gift for communication who feels deeply moved by injustice may discover their purpose in advocacy. Another person who is gifted at creating art and feels most alive when expressing beauty might discover that their purpose is to inspire others through creativity. The key is paying attention to where your abilities and passions naturally overlap. Discovering your true purpose also involves listening to the quiet voice of intuition. While the mind often pulls you in many directions, weighing logic, fear, and practicality, the deeper self communicates in subtle nudges and feelings. Perhaps you've experienced a moment when a particular idea or dream kept resurfacing, no matter how many times you pushed it aside. That persistence is not random. It is a sign that your deeper self is trying to guide you. Ignoring it leads to dissatisfaction, while following it leads to alignment. At first, the voice may be faint, drowned out by noise and distraction, but the more you listen, the louder and clearer it becomes. It is important to understand that purpose is not a destination, but a direction. Many people get stuck waiting for one grand revelation, expecting their purpose to arrive fully formed. They believe that until they know exactly what it is, they cannot begin. But purpose often reveals itself gradually, through action and experience. You may begin with a small step that feels aligned, and that step leads you to another, and then another, each one clarifying your path. For example, volunteering in a local community may awaken a passion for service that evolves into a career in social work or public leadership. Writing in a private journal may awaken a love for storytelling that eventually blossoms into a career as an author. The key is to act on the small sparks of alignment rather than waiting for a perfect plan. Living without purpose often leads to a restless, unsatisfied existence, no matter how much material success you achieve. People who ignore their deeper calling may find themselves successful by society's standards, but unfulfilled in their hearts. They may achieve the outward markers of success, money, prestige, recognition, yet still feel something is missing. This is because success without purpose feels hollow, like climbing a ladder only to discover it is leaning against the wrong wall. True fulfillment comes not from what you acquire, but from what you contribute, and contribution is always linked to purpose. When you are aligned with your true purpose, what you give to the world feels meaningful, and in return, life feels abundant and whole. The discovery of purpose also demands honesty about what drains you. Just as it is important to notice what energizes you, it is equally important to recognize the roles, activities, or environments that consistently leave you feeling depleted. These are often clues that you are living out of alignment. Too many people force themselves into lives that drain them, believing they have no other choice. They stay in jobs they dislike, maintain relationships that do not nourish them, or cling to habits that suppress their potential. Each time they do, they silence the voice of purpose a little more. To reverse this, you must be willing to let go of what no longer serves you, even if it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. In the empty space that follows, purpose has room to emerge. Another essential part of discovering purpose is service. Purpose is rarely just about personal gain. It almost always involves contributing to something larger than yourself. This does not mean you must change the entire world, but it does mean that your purpose will in some way touch others, uplift them, or create value beyond your own life. Service gives purpose its depth. Without service, pursuits often feel self-centered and lack lasting fulfillment. But when your actions contribute to the well-being of others, even in small ways, They become infused with a sense of meaning that cannot be matched by personal gain alone. Your true purpose is also tied to authenticity. You cannot discover it while pretending to be someone you are not. Many people wear masks to fit in, suppressing parts of themselves to be accepted. But your purpose is linked to your authentic self, the version of you that exists beneath the roles, expectations, and social conditioning. To access it, you must be willing to peel away the layers of who you think you should be and embrace who you truly are. This authenticity may feel vulnerable at first, but it is the only way to live in alignment with your deeper calling. Patience is vital on this journey. Discovering purpose is not a one-time event, but an unfolding process. There may be times when you feel lost, unsure of your direction, or disconnected from meaning. These moments are not failures, they are part of the journey. They encourage you to pause, reflect, and listen more deeply. Often, periods of uncertainty precede breakthroughs of clarity. Just as seeds need time to germinate in the dark before they sprout into the light, your purpose needs time to unfold within you before it can manifest fully in your outer life. Every person's purpose is unique. Comparing yourself to others only distracts you from your own path. It may be tempting to look at someone else's life and think that their purpose seems more important or impactful, but purpose cannot be measured by scale or visibility. What matters is alignment. A teacher who inspires a classroom of children is living their purpose just as much as an artist whose work reaches millions. A caregiver who brings comfort to one person in need is fulfilling their purpose just as deeply as a leader who changes a nation. The measure of purpose is not in its size, but in its authenticity to you. To align with higher consciousness is to rise above the limited perspective of the ego and step into a state of awareness where life is seen not as a series of isolated events, but as a connected whole. It is a shift from identifying solely with the material world and the demands of the mind to recognizing that you are part of something far greater than yourself. Higher consciousness is the awareness that you are not just a body moving through space and time, but a spiritual being having a human experience, capable of perceiving reality with clarity, depth, and wisdom. When you align with higher consciousness, you begin to move away from the illusion of separateness and open yourself to unity, compassion, and a deeper sense of meaning. This alignment begins with an understanding that the ego, while necessary for survival, often clouds perception. The ego thrives on comparison, fear, and attachment to outcomes. It creates a false identity based on titles, possessions, and roles, convincing you that your worth is tied to external validation. But higher consciousness reveals that your worth is intrinsic, untouchable, and independent of external circumstances. To align with higher consciousness means to recognize the ego for what it is without letting it dictate your life. You still live in the world, you still have responsibilities and goals, but you operate from a deeper awareness that prevents you from being consumed by them. One of the most powerful aspects of higher consciousness is presence. When you are aligned with it, you are no longer trapped in regrets of the past or anxieties about the future. You live fully in the present moment where life is actually happening. The present becomes not just a fleeting second, but a space of infinite possibility, a doorway to peace and clarity. Many people miss their lives because they are too busy reliving old wounds or worrying about outcomes that have not yet arrived. Aligning with higher consciousness allows you to step into now, where creativity, intuition, and joy naturally arise. In presence, even simple moments, a breath, a smile, a connection with another, become filled with depth and meaning. Another dimension of higher consciousness is compassion. When you rise above the narrow perspective of the ego, you begin to see yourself in others. You recognize that at the deepest level, we are all connected, all expressions of the same source. This awareness dissolves judgment and replaces it with empathy. Instead of seeing others as competitors or threats, you see them as fellow travelers on the same journey. Compassion does not mean ignoring injustice or passively accepting harm, but it does mean responding from understanding rather than hostility. This shift transforms relationships, reducing conflict and opening space for healing and connection. Aligning with higher consciousness also brings a new relationship with challenges. From the ego's perspective, obstacles are unfair disruptions, problems to resist or avoid. But from higher consciousness, challenges are opportunities for growth, invitations to expand awareness, and stepping stones toward greater alignment. You begin to trust that life is not happening against you but for you, even if the lessons are difficult. This trust replaces fear with faith and resistance with acceptance. When you see life through this lens, suffering loses its grip, not because difficulties disappear, but because you no longer identify with them as your entire reality. You observe them, learn from them, and grow beyond them. Meditation, mindfulness, and stillness are often the doorways to higher consciousness. In silence, the noise of the ego quiets, and you can hear the subtle voice of your deeper self. It is in this stillness that insights arise, not from effort, but from allowing. Aligning with higher consciousness is not about doing more, but about being more aware. It is about slowing down enough to notice the patterns of thought that keep you small, the emotions that recycle pain, and the opportunities for expansion that lie hidden in everyday life. Through consistent practice, this awareness becomes more natural, and alignment becomes less of an effort and more of a state of being. When you align with higher consciousness, synchronicities begin to appear. These are the moments when life seems to arrange itself in meaningful ways. Meeting the right person at the right time, stumbling upon information you needed, or finding doors open that once seemed closed. These experiences are not coincidences. They are the universe responding to your alignment. As your energy shifts to a higher state, you naturally attract experiences and opportunities that resonate with that state. Life feels less like a struggle to control and more like a dance you are being guided through, one step at a time. Another key aspect of aligning with higher consciousness is releasing attachment. The ego clings tightly to outcomes, believing happiness depends on specific achievements or possessions. It says, I will be fulfilled when I get this job, when I buy this house, when this person loves me. But higher consciousness reveals that fulfillment is not dependent on conditions. It is available here and now, independent of circumstances. Releasing attachment does not mean abandoning goals or desires. It means you no longer define your worth by them. You pursue them with joy, but you remain whole whether or not they manifest. This freedom from attachment brings peace because your sense of self is no longer fragile or dependent on constant external validation. Gratitude is another natural outcome of higher consciousness. When you rise above the ego's constant search for what is lacking, you begin to see the abundance already present in your life. Gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to sufficiency, from dissatisfaction to appreciation. This shift in perspective not only uplifts your spirit, but also attracts more experiences to be grateful for. Gratitude is not a forced exercise, but a natural recognition that life, with all its complexity, is a gift. Every breath, every interaction, every opportunity becomes an expression of this gift, deepening your connection to the present and to the source of all existence. Living in alignment with higher consciousness also transforms your sense of identity. Instead of defining yourself by labels, roles, or achievements, you begin to see yourself as awareness itself, the observer of experiences, rather than the experiences themselves. This shift is liberating. It means that no failure can diminish you, no success can inflate you, and no external circumstance can truly define you. You are the consciousness behind it all, unchanging and eternal. When you live from this identity, fear loses its grip because you realize that what you truly are cannot be harmed or destroyed. Creativity flourishes in higher consciousness because it is connected to the infinite. Ideas, inspiration, and solutions flow more easily when you are not trapped by the rigid structures of the ego. Many artists, scientists, and innovators have described moments of insight that seem to come from beyond themselves, as though they tapped into a universal field of wisdom. This is the essence of higher consciousness. It opens you to that limitless source of creativity and guidance that exists beyond the thinking mind. When aligned, you become a channel for this flow, and your actions carry a depth and originality that could never be forced. Forgiveness also becomes natural in higher consciousness. From the ego's perspective, holding grudges feels like power, a way to protect oneself from being hurt again. But in truth, holding on to resentment only binds you to the pain of the past. Higher consciousness reveals that forgiveness is not about condoning harm, but about freeing yourself from the burden of carrying it. It is a recognition that others act from their own limitations and unconsciousness, just as you sometimes have. When you forgive, you release the chains of anger and open yourself to peace. This does not mean you allow yourself to be mistreated, but it does mean you no longer poison your own heart with resentment. As you align more deeply, love becomes your natural state. Not love in the conditional, transactional sense, but unconditional love that flows without expectation or demand. This love is not limited to romantic relationships or close bonds. It extends outward to all beings, to nature, and to life itself. It is the recognition that everything is interconnected, that the same essence flows through all creation. When you live in this state, you radiate an energy that uplifts others, even without words. Your presence becomes a gift, and those around you feel inspired, safe, and encouraged simply by your being. Time itself begins to feel different in higher consciousness. Instead of rushing, striving, and constantly feeling behind, you experience a sense of flow. You trust the timing of life, knowing that things unfold as they are meant to. You become less concerned with controlling the future and more focused on aligning with the present. This does not mean you lack ambition or direction, but rather that you no longer carry the burden of impatience and urgency. You act with intention, but you release the need to force outcomes, trusting that the universe has its own rhythm that works in harmony with your growth. To live with intention and authenticity is to make a conscious choice each day to align your actions, thoughts, and decisions with the deepest truths of who you are. It is about moving away from a life dictated by habit, by the expectations of others, or by the automatic scripts of society, and instead living in a way that reflects your core values and unique identity. Most people drift through life on autopilot, repeating patterns without asking whether those patterns truly serve them. They work, consume, and sleep, often unaware that years pass without ever truly living in alignment with their innermost selves. To live with intention is to break free from that autopilot, to pause and ask, am I living in a way that honors my truth? Am I expressing the authentic self I came here to be? When you live intentionally, you stop reacting blindly to circumstances and begin responding from clarity. Life no longer feels like a random series of events pulling you in all directions, but rather a path you are consciously shaping. This requires awareness, because intention is born from clarity of mind and heart. Without awareness, you become a prisoner of distraction, pulled by the endless noise of the world. But with awareness, you choose deliberately where your energy goes. Each action, no matter how small, becomes infused with purpose because it comes from conscious choice rather than unconscious compulsion. Even simple acts, how you spend your morning, the words you speak, the way you treat others, become opportunities to live in alignment with intention. Authenticity deepens this process. To be authentic is to drop the masks you wear for acceptance, approval, or conformity, and to stand in the truth of who you are. Many people lose touch with authenticity early in life because they are taught that certain parts of themselves are unacceptable. They learn to hide vulnerability, to suppress their natural desires, or to shape themselves into what others want them to be. Over time, the authentic self becomes buried under layers of conditioning, and people live out versions of themselves that are shadows of their true nature. But authenticity demands that you peel back those layers, reclaim your voice, and embrace yourself fully, your strengths, your flaws, your uniqueness. Living with intention and authenticity does not mean perfection. It does not mean that you never make mistakes or that you have everything figured out. It means you are honest with yourself and courageous enough to live in alignment with that honesty. It is easier to follow the crowd, to live according to others' definitions of success, but authenticity requires bravery. It asks you to risk disapproval, to stand apart, and to trust that your path, no matter how unconventional, is valid because it is yours. Intention adds the focus to this authenticity, ensuring that your actions consistently reflect who you are rather than who you think you should be. Clarity of values is central to this way of living. If you do not know what you truly value, you cannot live intentionally. Many people inherit values from family, culture, or media without questioning them. They pursue wealth, status, or security because that is what they were taught to value, even if those pursuits leave them empty. To live with intention, you must pause and ask, what truly matters to me? What principles do I want my life to reflect? For some, it may be creativity, for others, compassion, growth, service, or freedom. When you know your values, they become a compass, guiding decisions and keeping you aligned, even when life pulls in many directions. Every choice becomes an opportunity to live intentionally. Consider how often choices are made out of habit, fear, or pressure rather than true desire. You may stay in a job you dislike because it feels safer than change, or you may remain in a relationship that doesn't nourish you because you fear loneliness. Intention asks you to pause before choosing, to ask whether the choice honors your authentic self. Sometimes this means making difficult decisions, walking away from what no longer serves you, saying no when pressured to conform, or choosing a path that others may not understand. But each time you choose with intention, you strengthen your connection to your true self, and life begins to align with that truth. Living authentically also means embracing vulnerability. Authenticity is not about presenting a polished version of yourself that hides all flaws. It is about being real. It means admitting when you are afraid, asking for help when you need it, and sharing your struggles as openly as your triumphs. Vulnerability may feel risky because it opens you to judgment, but it is also the source of true connection. When you allow yourself to be seen as you are, you invite others to do the same. Relationships deepen, trust grows, and your life becomes richer because it is grounded in truth rather than performance. One of the challenges in living with intention and authenticity is the constant pull of external influences. Society bombards you with messages about who you should be, what you should want, and how you should live. Social media amplifies this pressure, creating endless comparisons that make authenticity difficult. But to live authentically is to resist the temptation to measure yourself by someone else's life. It is to say, I honor my own journey, my pace, my choices. My desires are valid even if they do not look like anyone else's. This is where intention protects authenticity, because intention focuses your energy inward, reminding you to live according to your truth rather than external noise. Mindfulness plays a vital role in this practice. To live intentionally, you must be present enough to notice when you drift into autopilot. You must notice when you are saying yes to things that do not serve you, when you are silencing your true voice, or when you are acting from fear instead of authenticity. Mindfulness creates the space to pause, reflect, and realign. Without it, intention quickly fades into unconscious routine. But with mindfulness, you bring awareness to each moment, making space to choose deliberately rather than react impulsively. Authenticity is also about alignment between inner and outer worlds. Many people feel an inner conflict because who they are inside does not match what they express outwardly. They may value creativity but suppress it in favor of practicality, or they may value kindness but allow stress to make them harsh. This misalignment creates tension and dissatisfaction. Living authentically means closing that gap, bringing your outer life into harmony with your inner truth. It means your words match your beliefs, your actions reflect your values, and your choices honor your deepest desires. The more you live in alignment, the more peace and fulfillment you experience, because you no longer live in contradiction with yourself. Living with intention and authenticity also transforms how you pursue goals. Instead of chasing goals because they are expected, you pursue goals that reflect your values and desires. You no longer aim for success simply because it is admired, but because it aligns with who you are. This shift changes the quality of effort. Work becomes meaningful, challenges feel purposeful, and achievements bring true satisfaction because they are connected to your authentic self. Even failure takes on new meaning, because failing at something aligned with your truth feels more fulfilling than succeeding at something that isn't. Another important aspect is boundaries. To live authentically, you must protect your energy from influences that pull you away from your truth. This may mean saying no to commitments that drain you, distancing yourself from relationships that demand you suppress your authenticity, or limiting time spent on activities that do not align with your values. Boundaries are not about isolation, but about creating the space where your authentic self can thrive. They allow you to honor your truth without compromise, ensuring that your intention remains focused and strong. Gratitude and simplicity naturally emerge when you live with intention. When your life is aligned with your authentic self, you stop chasing endless external validation and start appreciating the richness of what you already have. You find joy in small things, depth in simple moments, and meaning in everyday life. This does not mean you stop aspiring or growing, but it means your aspirations are grounded in contentment rather than lack. You no longer live in a constant state of not enough, because you realize that authenticity itself is abundance. Living intentionally also brings resilience. When life challenges you, authenticity gives you strength because you are anchored in your truth. You no longer bend under pressure to be someone you are not. Intention gives you focus, reminding you why you chose your path in the first place. Together, they create an unshakable foundation. No matter what storms come, you stand firm because you are living a life that is truly yours, not one borrowed from others.